We don't foresee the long term to be that office is going away. Not happening. Not happening. And even the big companies right now, the giants, they are getting poised to say, we will, some bad terminology, we will boil them until they come back. We will do what we need to do until they come back into the office, because they know from a level of productivity and collaboration, you need to work together.
Hi, I'm Wade Hansen. I've been selling luxury real estate in Minnesota and Wisconsin for over 23 years. My entire career has been spent protecting my clients from misinformation and unethical practices by those not looking out for their best interests. This podcast will give you the raw truth about everything real estate so you can make solid, informed decisions about the biggest investment of your lifetime. This is the Raw Real Estate Podcast. Mark, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time. You are the commercial guru here at RE/MAX Results. You founded Results Commercial, I think, 20, 25 years ago?
Yeah, about 20 years ago.
I always felt I should have been a commercial broker. I think if I had to start over, I'd do commercial again. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's just less emotion and more logic involved in commercial, and it's just a process that's always intrigued me. Although I know nothing about it, and I hope you can teach me some things today, it's something that's just always been intriguing to me. I think the commercial realm of real estate is very, very interesting.
So here's what I would say to you. It's not too late.
It's too late. It's too late. I've put my stake in the ground long ago. And it's
you've got a good thing going.
Yeah,
so you've built an amazing luxury business. So there's many days on our commercial side where I look at what you guys do and I say, why in the world do I do commercial? I should be hawking some houses, but we don't. We're commercial investment people, and it is by design. And a lot of it has to do with everything from the emotion component all the way to the financial analysis to Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. In fact, the Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, believe it or not, is probably one of the biggest pieces.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to do residential, I'm going to be trying to do what you do, right, from a price point of view.
Yep.
But what you have to put up with versus what I have to do are kind of two different worlds. And I'm not saying one's better than another, but I do like our hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides that, what do you think the major difference is between residential and commercial, just as you've seen it over the years?
Oh, goodness. There's so many. There really are. People think that it's an easy crossover, but it isn't. We're deep into analysis. So we're numbers people for sure. So when we're diving deep into financial analysis, so they expect us to be able to go through and dissect our numbers and talk about cap rates and discounted cash flow and how do we take and turn that asset around into a better performing asset, stabilize the asset. There is less emotion, but it's not quite as dramatic as some people might think. Yeah. We have plenty of clients that are plenty emotional.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do. You bet. Because again, especially when we're doing one-offs. So we're seller brokers. And so when we have to go sell that office building or retail building, or maybe it's the mom and pop shop, and that money in that shop is their retirement. And they are extraordinarily tied to it, and there is a pretty fair amount of emotion attached to it. Now, we do a lot of work for banks and investment groups. That's a little different game.
Yeah.
And we definitely, in terms of preference, we are in our world, the more seasoned you are, the better. We like working with people who are full-time commercial investment professionals, and they appreciate our work.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody like me that's a full-time residential real estate agent that has a buddy come to him and say, I want to buy a commercial property, will you help me? What would you say to somebody like me?
What is it? Okay, because it might be that you can help them that much, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Realistically. Yeah. With your license you can, but you don't have access to the data. Right. You're not an expert any more than if somebody came to me and said, Mark, will you sell my, beautiful, gorgeous, $3 million house on the river? And be like, well, I can technically.
Yeah.
But do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's not my domain.
Yeah.
I could probably wing it and fake it like you could, but that's not what we're supposed to do in our industry.
Yeah. I see a lot of it, though.
Oh, there's a ton of it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of it. There's lots of people.
You?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Okay. Now we kind of let it go.
Yeah.
We've separated ourselves out enough to say, what, if you want to take on that commercial property, usually what ends up happening is a residential agent may play with it, and they hit a wall, and they realize, like, I've hit my wall, and they call us.
Yeah.
And they say, what, if we don't need them, I'll try to get away with it. Otherwise, but we know. We know when we get the call, the point in which they hit the wall.
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't have access to that database. How do you value this asset?
Yeah.
It's things like that because it is complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I see a lot of residential agents think they can dip their toes in the water there, and it's really tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
So I'm really intrigued by what's happened the last 2 years with people working from home, and obviously you get this question all the time. You're probably sick of answering it, but for my viewers, just tell me, how has the pandemic affected commercial real estate?
Sure. No, we do. We talk a lot about it, and it's been interesting kind of watching it shape up, and even as we've watched it play itself out, and it's still playing itself out right now.
Yeah.
In fact, even when you look at occupancy rates in Texas for office space, and you look at occupancy rates in the Twin Cities for office space, you see a huge discrepancy. People are going back to work in many of these other markets. And here, and I think one of our big corporations recently just said, you know what, we're still waiting before we go back to the office, one of our big corporations based here in the Twin Cities. And so I was just reading some statistics recently where I think, we're dealing with Dallas-Fort Worth at almost a 60+% occupancy on their office, where here in the Twin Cities we're substantially less. What does it mean overall? It means that overall, what's going to be the net fallout, right? That's what we look at. And we go, what's really going to happen here? We don't foresee the long term to be that office is going away. Not happening. And even the big companies right now, the giants, they are getting poised to say, we will, some bad terminology, we will boil them until they come back. We will do what we need to do until they come back into the office, because they know from a level of productivity and collaboration, you need to work together.
Yeah. We
need to be together. Yeah. You can't be a 25 or 30-year-old wannabe manager sitting on the sofa. You need to get in the office and learn from the people who are experienced. So I think that, yes, is it a different working environment? Positively. Will it be a different working environment in the future? Absolutely. Will we see the complete demise of office or retail?
Right.
We won't happen.
Yeah. What does it look like in the future? I mean, how is it kind of it's obviously adjusting the spaces that they're working in, right? What is that?
That's exactly
like?
it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing. So is there some downsizing? Yeah. So you might say, you know what, we don't need 30% of that space. We don't need to have necessarily those private offices. We're going to come in and work in this, come in 3 days a week, and you don't have a dedicated office. You can pick an office. We're going to collaborate. We're going to sit together so that you can be isolated at home, sitting with your computer, doing your Zoom, doing your team meetings, whatever you're doing. But when you're coming in here, we want to get together and interact so that we can move the ball forward. And so it is a changing of the workspace. I mean, it's changing from air exchange systems, right? Complete changing of air exchange systems to companies saying, we don't want to share an elevator. We don't want to share an entry. We want our own private entry. We don't want to go in with other people. We don't want to be maybe in a tower anymore. We want to have our own standalone because our employees will feel better or safer. Lots of nuance to all of this.
Yeah.
But it's also very, very subjective because, again, Minneapolis is very different than Florida. It's very different than Texas or Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So,
do you think some of this was going to change anyway, and COVID has just expedited that? I mean, some of this that you're referring to, I think, is maybe generational, where some of this, the millennials coming into the workforce, we're going to want to be in those collaboration type spaces. Do you think that was going to happen anyway?
Yeah, I think that, and I think overall that it's not a bad thing by any means. I think it's just the reshaping of our future and the way we work. So I don't see it as a negative whatsoever. It's just it's a gigantic disruptor, but with that change can come many great things. We've felt it.
Yeah.
So the way we work is different, and I like the way we work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we're on the verge of a correction in residential or in commercial real estate? Excuse me.
Yeah, so the way I certainly track the industry, and so our cliche is commercial follows residential. So I always watch all residential trends. I watch residential trends across the country because it helps to start to see what might be happening with commercial, what's going on with our economy, what's going on with consumer spending, rates, and all the rest of it. So I watch it closely. What do I think? What I think is that obviously what's been going on with residential real estate and commercial real estate to some degree, but certainly residential real estate, is positively not sustainable. So those of us that have lived through many cycles, and I've gone through many cycles in real estate, this idea that you can sustain, 9 or 14% appreciation, or rents increasing 20%, 30%, 40%, or in some areas even 60%, it's not going to happen. And so I think you're going to find regional adjustments. You're going to find pocket adjustments. There's going to be some areas that are going to be probably hit a little bit harder. Nothing like the Great Recession, because the fundamentals there are completely different than what we're faced with today. But I think what we're going to end up seeing is that we will get down into lower appreciation in many areas, that maybe that neighborhood that was going at 12% might suddenly be at 2% for a few years. So those folks that may have potentially overpaid, we all know this because we've all lived through it, just hang in your house a little bit longer.
Yeah. Which is ultimately going to still affect that negative balance of supply and demand, right? If people are hanging out in their houses a little bit longer. So
yeah, but the bottom line is, I'm glad to see the new cycle. So for me as a real estate professional, I'm delighted to see a new cycle finally happen.
Same.
I've been waiting years for this to occur. Because we don't like this. We don't like this idea. We don't like this pumping of. We knew the pumping of the money was going to create an inflationary.
Yep.
We knew that these super low interest rates weren't necessarily a good thing. Now, again, I know lots of people are like, Mark, how can that be a good thing? I can get a nice bigger house for much less. It's like, no, you're missing the point here. You're missing the point, because now what we have is we have a greater affordability crisis across America with housing. Yeah. And this is a true crisis. This is a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's very problematic. And we need some smart people to figure it out.
Isn't that the truth? I kind of feel like we were set to kind of reset right before COVID. It felt like it was time for us to adjust right before COVID hit, and I felt like COVID just kind of injected some false life into the residential market. That's my opinion. I felt like we were coming off about a 10-year cycle of a housing. It was a boom for 10 years coming out of the recession. So, and when COVID hit, I just felt like it just injected some false life into the real estate market.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, you see the same thing in commercial. You felt like that was kind of
commercial. Interestingly, yes. There's no doubt. I'm a listing broker, so we're seller brokers. That's what we focus on. And in my 20 years here, I've never been at such low amount of inventory. And why are we at such a low amount of inventory? The biggest reason in our world on commercial investment real estate is because you can't replace it, right? Kind of like the home person saying, you know what, even my wife and I, we have grown children. We could sell our house, but what are we going to go buy?
Right.
No, we'll keep this house. We'll let it do its thing, because I don't see a replacement out there. In commercial, because of 1031 tax exchanges, if you can't replace that office building and that retail building with a like-kind exchange, now granted, Delaware statutory trust, there's some other tools that we can use to go into a like-kind investment. But net lease, so we do a lot of net lease work, right? The Walgreens, Starbucks, Arby's of the world. And even there, too, it's extraordinarily competitive with a lot of cap rate compression. So we've seen those caps coming down, shrinking, and extraordinarily competitive because there's so much cash in the marketplace. So there, too, we need to get into more of a balanced market on the commercial side of things, too.
Yeah. What's your opinion of this whole rent control that's happening in St. Paul? It's a tough question, I know.
Well, there's not a good answer to it, because I'm a landlord, and I've been a landlord forever. I'm a small landlord now, but I was a full-time investor for some time. But I prefer being a broker now over a full-time landlord, that's for sure. I'm much better at it. It's a tough one, because I don't like to see runaway rents. In fact, I just spent time in Florida because I'm a licensed broker in Florida, and we're watching rents in Florida go up 20, 30, 40, 50%. Wow. We're watching people being priced out of their apartments. It really bothers me. It's sad to see. I don't like to see it. So when you look at that and say there's got to be a solution, there's got to be a better way. At the same time, I do believe in the free market, but when we don't have enough new product coming on the market, right? That's our problem. We don't have enough new product. There aren't enough apartments and homes for people to rent,
right?
Much less buy, right?
Yeah.
And now when it comes to the building of this, what you're seeing is people saying, hey, builder, we want you to build this whole big division, and it's nothing but rental. And it's all high-end rental. It's not affordable rental. And so my idea of rent control is that I think that there might be it might be a temporary answer in select markets for select products. Okay, so I think, are there times when you got to say, listen, should government come in and cool things down a little bit? Not unlike saying, we had a 0.5 point raise on our interest rates last night. Yeah. Bump that baby up, cool things down a little bit. So might rent control say, listen, can we cap this at St. Paul 3% year over year? Most landlords are going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
we want to keep good tenants in place. But overall, do I think that that's the answer? I don't. I think what we need to do is make sure that tenants have a good opportunity with a good choice of housing. And because landlords will find one way or another to either play the game, get more money through other fees or other things like that. And typically, I'm not a big guy that says government has the answers. I'm not a believer in that. Many people, in my opinion, forgive me for those of you that disagree, but the business community or the investment community, many folks who have been doing this for a long time, I think we have a lot to offer to say, let's find solutions. We want to see people have housing. We want to see people have affordable housing.
Yeah. Yeah, my only fear of the whole thing is it's kind of setting a precedent, and it might spill over into other communities. And
there you go.
Yeah, that's my only fear, right?
Yeah.
I understand the part of it that's a benefit, but at the same time, I think, now if it works there, or they feel it works there, where are they going to stop?
Well, are you going to put a cap on gasoline and a head of lettuce?
Right, yeah, exactly.
In fact, why don't you do that? I would love that. Let's go cap that gas thing so it's not costing me $66 to fill up my Highlander.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of you've been this a long time, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the commercial as far as trends, whether that's from a marketing perspective or from a investment perspective? What's been some of the largest changes you've seen?
Yeah, good question. I think what I kind of come away with on that one, Wade, is the idea that, boy, it's a money game. It's a capital game. This is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the undercapitalized. You can't step into our world skinny. You're not buying an office building, a retail building, or industrial building undercapitalized. It's just pure disaster. It's also one of my frustrations when people will advise investors, that you're going to go get rich and drive your Lamborghini and jump in that private jet when you go buy your 3 duplexes and you don't have any money. Right. It drives me nuts. Yeah. It makes me crazy. So I really appreciate it when people, including like your post the other day, saying, listen, leave investing to the investors. Yeah. This is a business, and this is not a get rich quick. Yeah. It's not terribly passive. Commercial, you better be ready, because if you're buying that retail, look at that little cute 2-unit retail over there. Yeah. And when that one tenant vacates, the cost of fixing that space up for that next tenant to create 5, 10, 15 years worth of income, you're talking about substantial amount of money. I mean, the kind of money that makes your head spin. Yeah. So I think that's kind of it. It's one of those things saying, unfortunately, you better be well capitalized.
Yeah, you're either in the game or you're not.
Yeah,
right?
big time.
Yeah.
But just don't think that grass is greener over there.
Right. Yeah, I don't invest in real estate. I sell it. I love to sell to investors. I love to help investors buy residential real estate, but it's just not my game. It's not one I want to play in. And I think you got to be a big enough player in the game, like you said, to go all in.
Yeah, and many people do come to realize that, the economy of scale thing, right? Yeah. That's what you do. So as I teach and I'll train, I'll say to people, maybe take one approach or the other. Mm-hmm. And approach A might be, go pick up your 2 or 3 or 4 duplexes, pay them off, let them do what they should do for you and your family, but don't think that 40 duplexes is better than 4 duplexes, because that's not the case. Yeah. And you don't need to have 1,000 units. You can go out there and have a few investments and let them do really, really well for you. But I agree, it's a business, treat it like a business. And again, from somebody who was a full-time investor, I have some investment in real estate, but I much prefer working with the sophisticated investor. Yeah. Let me represent them. Let me take care of them.
Yeah. You're crushing it on YouTube, and I watched your YouTube channel for a couple hours the other day, and there's an episode I really liked. I just want to talk just a little bit about that, and it was 5 reasons not to sell real estate. And you talked about it. I think it's hard, it's demanding, it's competitive, it's commission-based, and it takes money to make money. I just thought that was a great YouTube episode, and I'm going to share that here on my Facebook page. But
thank you.
Just elaborate that a little bit. Why'd you post that? What's your, just talk a little bit more about that.
Oh, it kind of goes back to, at this stage of my career, I've been in this for a long time. I won't be in it forever. Mm-hmm. And I want to be a practical voice. I just want to be a practical voice. I want to bring kind of real life to the industry. I'm all for all the HGTV shows. and while I don't consume them, my wife loves them, but I'm not one that takes them all in. I just get kind of really tired of that idea that thinks that everybody they glorify the business too much. Yes. Or they glorify the idea that what we do is, the bar is too low to get your license, but it's not a low bar to be successful. In fact, those of us that ultimately rise to success, you've put your time in, you work crazy hard.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's right or fair for people to go out there and misrepresent that to the public.
Yeah.
And so I just think there should be more of us going out there to say, just be cautious. Come on in our industry, by all means. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to keep you out of our business, but we want you to be great at what you do. We want the brokers and managers we want them to manage their agents. Mm-hmm. So we have a higher caliber. So we get back to fiduciary. So we get back to really taking care of clients.
Yes.
And we're also reasonable with each other in the business, because I think you probably see it more than I do in doing residential versus commercial. Commercial, we're a pretty small, tight-knit community. We all know each other. Yeah. And we broker with each other, and we know who's good and who's not good. But I read lots of stories about people on the or worse yet, when residential agents come to me, and I'm thinking, excuse me, but you're coming with guns a-blazing at me, and it's like, I have the listing.
Yeah.
I'll work with you, but your attitude right now is a little off-putting.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes one to know one, but for Pete's sake, slow down there a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and to fill up room after room with new people getting their license, knowing that your odds are, I don't know, 2%, 3%, 5%, that you'll actually find success in the business. Let's help those folks out a little bit.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your honesty about it. And it seems like everybody that sits in that chair, and we bring up that question, talk about that, they all talk about the bar being so low, the bar of entry. And do you think that'll ever change in our industry?
I don't know. I mean, as long as I've been at this business, which is crazy super long, it's the same, so I don't know that it is. But again, I think I just saw a stat a day or two ago about the fallout of NAR, like right now, happening right at this very minute.
Yeah.
We just had a bump in interest rates, so we're 2.5 points up from our bottom, and the fallout is happening that rapidly. It's just a beautiful thing.
Good.
It has to happen.
Absolutely.
It should happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good for it's for the consumer. It's not for us. It's for the consumer.
Absolutely.
They deserve great representation on something as important as what we're doing every day.
Yes.
Yeah, this is not haphazard. Yeah. Nothing about what we do is haphazard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I totally agree with what you're saying, and unfortunately, I don't think it's ever going to change. I don't think the bar of entry will ever change.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate. I think, the more realtors, the more warm bodies we get in chairs, the more dues they get paid, and the more those people that control those decisions to raise the bar of entry just say, we're making killing on these dues. We don't need to. I wish they'd triple our dues, and they would cut a third of the population out, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
Right.
So.
Or there too, the brokerages, right? Because the brokerage have a lot to do with this. When brokerages will take in people because they really care about their roster numbers, or teams. Teams are more concerned about how many people do I have on my team versus productivity and great representation. And when we can get away from, I run a small team. I will always run a small team. Mm-hmm. I don't want to run a big team.
Yeah.
I want a small team that does great work with very, very high production. Those are our goals. But I don't need to run around saying, look at our 90 people, look at our 40 people. Yeah. I'm not interested in that.
Same, yeah. I think our values and our businesses align a lot when it comes to that. I have no desire to have just a bunch of, I don't want to be an adult babysitter. It's just not something I want to do. And I enjoy the day-to-day of sales. That's what I'm good at, and that's what I enjoy. So I don't to be a manager is not in my future.
I hear you.
So before I wrap things up, I appreciate your time here, but I always ask everybody one question. I like to study the success and leadership and achievements of those like yourself that have been really, really successful. I love having people like you in my room and in that chair. What would be one piece of advice you'd give to me, your kids, anybody getting into real estate what has made you successful?
Boy, I teach top producers, right? So, I mean, it's part of what I do. I teach and I train that stuff. And I don't know, Wade, that's a tough one, the one thing. I don't want to say that you need to take it seriously. I don't want to say that you need to work hard. Yeah, we work hard. Yeah, we take it seriously. We think, we plan. I think if anything, you have to approach it like a business. And I don't think people come into our business realizing that you are running a business, and every aspect of what we do is no different than any other business. Mm-hmm. And I think if there's one thing, it's going to be that piece of it. I come from a marketing background, so we're marketers. So I happen to put a lot of emphasis on that. We are people, systems, tools, right? So we want to make sure we've got the right people, the right systems, and the right tools to take care of our customers, so that we make sure we have a sustainable business model. sustainable. But to have a sustainable business model, you have to have a sustainable business, and you need to treat it like a business and not just come in and say, hey, let me call up the people I know and my friends and who I go to church with, and there's my business and everything is good. Let's run this like a business so that you're going to be around 5 years, 15 years, and 20 years.
Yeah.
I think that's about all I have on that.
That's great advice. That's great advice, and I wish there would be more leaders in our industry that would give that advice. And most of the advice is exactly what you said. Just write down your list of 100 people you know, call them, and sell them a house. So, yeah,
right.
Yeah. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insight, and I wish you a successful rest of 2022.
Appreciate being here. Thank you so much, and congratulations on all of your success as well.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. If you have any feedback for this episode or want to suggest a future topic or even possible guests, head to wadehansen.com. There you can get links to my Facebook and LinkedIn pages. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see the video version of this podcast too. Again, thank you for listening to the Raw Real Estate Podcast. We'll talk soon.